Hey all, here OS Reviews. You're watching our hands-on review of a Bluetooth speaker backpack from Stealth Labs. This is currently a project on Indiegogo, but it's already met its campaign goal, and you can find one for about $130 right now. Definitely a very futuristic look that has got to be one of the sleekest I've ever seen in any modern backpack. Now it has 12 liters for the cargo space. It claims to fit laptops up to 15 inches in addition to a water bottle holder inside the backpack, additional textbooks, and even a jacket and some spare clothing for an entire day or two if you're actually traveling, so it can actually hold much more than you'd expect. To power the speaker, there's a built-in 5,000 milliamp hour capacity battery that also dubs as a power bank. The last feature that makes this backpack stand out is it claims to be theft-proof. That is, if you look at the back, it's completely flat, and that's also where the zipper is. So when you're wearing it, it's pressed against your back and shoulders, and it's non-accessible from any of the sides or the top, so no one can actually steal or get it open without actually taking the backpack off. Reflecting on the price, although it seems steep at first, it's actually very fair. There are backpacks from Xiaomi that actually looks very similar in terms of that geometric pattern, not quite as striking in my opinion, but this sells for $100, doesn't have any of the smart features, so it's very reasonable in my opinion. However, I will say that this is not the first Bluetooth speaker backpack that we've reviewed. Actually, about 2 years ago, we checked out another one from Trek. It was called the Shell, and here it is by comparison. It's actually about the same price, but you can see how Trek's version is actually a lot smaller, which means you'll be able to carry less stuff with the Trek version, even though it technically came out first, and again, doesn't have as many smart features, like there's no power bank built onto this previous model. Before I dive into a closer look and sound quality test, I want to point out a few first impressions. Now, because it has a really durable outer shell, so to get this geometric shape and also making it sturdy, it's actually a hard shell as opposed to, a more soft material like felt. So it's going to add about a pound or two of extra weight to your commute, which is a sacrifice. You'll pay for that style, but it's something to keep in mind. To get this really dramatic portfolio, which reminds me of something out of a sci-fi movie, another thing is that the base here is completely hard, which means that it stays upright best when you put it onto a flat surface. If you're actually resting this backpack on a carpet, it does seem to be a little bit more top-heavy. So the balance of the bag in terms of its weight is going to be a bit more tricky because of its V-shaped base. Now, a closer look at its pockets and construction, we do have a really nicely enforced handle for holding the backpack if you aren't wearing it, and we also have the aforementioned secret pocket number 1, including a full-size USB one, which is used to recharge the built-in battery, and then you get the 2 integrated cables, one for Lightning, one for USB Type-C, to charge up iOS devices and an Android smartphone. It does not have a micro USB cable, however, but otherwise it works really well. The cable itself has a nice high-quality braided material, and if I wanted to charge something like a smartphone, I can simply plug it in, and then the power bank just pops onto life, as you can see there. It provides power output of 5 volt 1 amp, so not the fastest, quick charge battery or power bank in the world, but it works pretty well. Will charge up an average Android smartphone or an iPhone in around 2 hours or so. It is a smart charger, so you can even charge 2 devices at the same time, maybe an iPhone and an Android phone if you're carrying around 2 for whatever reason, and then just close things up. So again, this will be resting on your back, so everything is protected against theft. And then inside is where we have the ability to put your computer, some additional documents, in addition to a smaller compartment that you can use to maybe put some utensils like pencils or anything like that, or even cables, smaller itinerary products you may be traveling with. And again, because of this interesting construction where it's hard, there's this additional cabin space of sorts where you can put in a jacket, a shirt, anything really larger that you would want. And a water bottle would simply sit on the side and it kind of stays in place because of the hard surface, but there's no separate holder for it. Now on the base here is actually an interesting pad that you can lift up to technically see where the power bank is, but it's non-detachable. So here's a base. It's made of a soft touch rubber material and relies on these 3 hard points to stay upright, again, which is why it's a little trickier to stand upright by itself on a carpet or soft surface. But it continues these really interesting artistic modernist geometric shapes that we see from the top of the backpack, and a knob that you can use to turn it on. So I can switch it over, you'll see an LED pop onto life, and you can adjust the volume by twisting it clockwise, and then you can turn it off or get the volume smaller by turning it counterclockwise. So we were only about 40% volume on the phone and about 40% volume on the default speaker knob, so it was already extremely loud. This is definitely something that will fill up a small room without any problems, and surprisingly there's a good amount of bass as well. The sound quality is miles ahead of the Trek Shell, the other Bluetooth speaker backpack that I reviewed a few years back and talked about previously. That one had very tinny audio quality, not much bass, and there's a lot of static, noise, and distortion. So this one is much more clear and it has, again, much more punch in the lower frequency. So that's been the Stealth Labs Smart Backpack. Luckily, it's a case where it's not just style over substance. Yes, it looks really cool, like a piece of modern art, but more importantly, it actually has great sounding speakers, perhaps the best I've ever heard from a backpack. Gets extremely loud with good bass, and also holds more stuff than you'd expect. It's not going to be to everyone's cup of tea, but again, if you do want a conversation starter, it's well constructed and actually performs really well too in terms of sound. So you can check out more details in the links down below if interested, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the Stealth Labs wireless Bluetooth speaker backpack.